The first reason: complaining drains your energy, action fuels it. Have you ever caught yourself replaying the same problem in your mind over and over? Maybe you were stuck in traffic, maybe a coworker annoyed you, or maybe life simply didn't go the way you expected. You tell your friends, you post about it online, you even talk to yourself about it. And after all that, has anything changed? The truth is, every complaint is like a small leak in your mental battery. The more you voice it without action, the more power you lose. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." They believed that every moment spent on unproductive complaint was a moment stolen from purposeful action. Think about it. When you complain, you're essentially telling the world, "I acknowledge the problem, but I refuse to fix it." Your mind becomes trapped in the loop of pointing at the fire instead of picking up a bucket of water. That constant verbalizing of dissatisfaction convinces your brain you're doing something about it, when in reality, you're standing still. Now ask yourself this: what if every time you felt the urge to complain, you took one small action instead? Imagine replacing "this is unfair" with "here's what I'm going to do about it." Picture yourself transforming a 10-minute rant into 10 minutes of learning a skill, calling someone who can help, or simply adjusting your own behavior. The Stoics wouldn't deny you the right to feel frustration. They were human, after all. But they would urge you to catch yourself in that moment and redirect your energy. Epictetus taught that events themselves are not the cause of our distress, it's our interpretation of them. So, when you feel wronged, rather than adding more heat to the fire through words, shift your focus to what you can influence. Here's a simple exercise. The next time you want to complain, pause. Write down the core issue in one sentence. Then, immediately list 3 things you can do to move forward. Even if the steps are tiny: sending an email, asking a question, researching a solution, you've turned your frustration into fuel. Over time, this habit will rewire your brain to act first and complain less. You might be wondering, but what if the problem is too big for me to solve? The Stoic answer: focus on your sphere of control. If you cannot change the situation, you can still change how you respond to it. Complaining about the rain will not stop the clouds, but you can grab an umbrella, wear boots, and keep walking. The difference is subtle but life-changing. You stay in motion instead of getting stuck. And here's the deeper truth: people respect those who act far more than those who merely talk. In your own life, think about who inspires you more: the person who constantly points out what's wrong, or the one who quietly, consistently works towards solutions. Which one do you want to be? So, the first reason to stop complaining and start acting is this: every complaint without action makes you weaker. Every action without complaint makes you stronger. The more you train yourself to redirect that wasted energy, the more momentum you build. And momentum, as the Stoics knew, is the closest thing we have to unstoppable force in life. Before you move to the next reason, ask yourself honestly: what am I complaining about this week, and what one action will I take instead? The second reason: complaining traps you in the past, action anchors you in the present. Have you noticed that complaints almost always begin with something that already happened? The meeting was unfair. They shouldn't have spoken to me like that. I can't believe I missed that opportunity. Each time you replay the moment in your head, you're stepping out of the present and back into a mental rerun. You can't change a scene that's already been filmed, but by reliving it, you give it the power to shape your mood, your choices, and even your identity. The Stoics understood that our most precious possession is the present moment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Why? Because the present is the only place where life actually happens, and it's the only place where you can take meaningful action. The past is unchangeable, the future is uncertain, but the now is always in your hands. When we complain about the past, we're essentially feeding a ghost, giving life to something that no longer exists. That ghost consumes our mental energy, making it harder to see opportunities right in front of us. The Stoics would say, let the ghost fade, and turn your gaze toward what you can do now. Imagine you're carrying a backpack filled with stones. Each stone represents a complaint about the past, the conversation you wish had gone differently, the decision you regret, the unfair treatment you endured. You carry them everywhere, and over time, the weight becomes exhausting. But here's the truth: every time you shift from complaining to acting, you drop one of those stones. You become lighter, faster, more capable. The key is awareness. Complaints often disguise themselves as harmless venting, but in reality, they chain you to events that cannot be altered. If you're serious about building a stronger, calmer life, you must notice when you're slipping into past-focused talk and deliberately pull yourself back to the present. Here's a Stoic-inspired practice. When you catch yourself complaining about the past, stop and ask, what can I do with this moment right now that moves me forward? If the answer is nothing, then drop it. If there is something, even something small, do it immediately. The quicker you shift to action, the less grip the past has on you. Seneca warned against living as if you have unlimited time. Every moment spent trapped in yesterday is a moment stolen from today's opportunities. You cannot change the words that were spoken, but you can choose the next words that leave your mouth. You cannot undo a lost chance, but you can create a new one. And here's the beauty of it: once you train your mind to focus on the present through action, you start to feel freer. Problems still arise, life will never be free of them, but they no longer haunt you for days or weeks. You handle them, you learn from them, and you move forward. That speed of recovery is a mark of true resilience. So, the second reason to stop complaining and start acting is this: complaining keeps you living in scenes that no longer exist, while action places you firmly in the only place you can change, the present. And in that space, you are more powerful than you think. Before we move on, take a moment to reflect. What complaint from the past am I still carrying, and what action can I take today to set it down? The third reason: complaining weakens your sense of control, action restores it. When you complain, you subtly tell yourself, and everyone listening, that you are powerless. The message underneath the words is, this is happening to me, and I can't do anything about it. The more you repeat this narrative, the more it hardens into belief. And once you believe you're powerless, your motivation to act shrinks to nothing. The Stoics had a different view of life. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is not just a motivational slogan, it's a mental framework that changes everything. When you accept that events are outside your control but your response is always within your power, you reclaim your agency. Think of it like steering a ship in rough waters. You can't calm the ocean, you can't stop the wind, but you can adjust your sails and choose your direction. Complaining is like standing at the wheel, shouting at the waves. Action is steering toward a safer, better course. Here's the hidden danger: when you complain, your focus shifts entirely to the parts of the situation you can't control, other people's behavior, external events, unfair systems. Your brain becomes an expert at spotting obstacles and blind to solutions. Over time, this creates a mental habit of helplessness. The Stoics believe that the fastest way to regain a sense of control is to act within your sphere of influence, no matter how small it seems. If you're stuck in traffic, complaining won't make the cars move. But maybe you can use that time to listen to an audiobook, practice deep breathing, or plan your next steps. That shift doesn't just change the moment, it changes you. Marcus Aurelius put it simply: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Every time you choose action over complaint, you send your mind the message, I am in control of myself. That message builds confidence and resilience, the exact opposite of the helplessness that complaining breeds. Let's be clear, this isn't about pretending problems don't exist. Stoicism isn't about false positivity. It's about acknowledging reality. Yes, something unpleasant happened, and then immediately moving into, what's my next move? That transition is where your power lives. Here's a practical way to apply this Stoic lesson. The next time you feel the urge to complain, write down everything about the situation that's outside your control, and then cross it out. Whatever remains is your sphere of influence. Pick one small, immediate action from that list and do it. The speed at which you act matters. It interrupts the spiral of negativity before it takes over. This shift isn't just mental, it's physical. Neuroscience shows that action produces dopamine, the brain's reward chemical, which reinforces motivation. Complaining, on the other hand, strengthens neural pathways linked to stress and anxiety. So with each choice, you're literally rewiring your brain toward either helplessness or empowerment. The third reason, then, is this: complaining drains your sense of control and leaves you stuck, while taking action, even small action, flips the switch back to power. And the more you repeat that switch, the more unshakable your confidence becomes. Ask yourself right now, where in my life have I been giving away my control by complaining, and what small step could I take today to reclaim it? The fourth reason, complaining traps you in the past, action moves you into the present. Every complaint is a conversation with yesterday. It's a replay of events that already happened, an argument with moments you can't go back and rewrite. The problem? Life only moves forward, but complaining keeps you looking over your shoulder. The Stoics understood this deeply. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." And much of that suffering comes from reliving what's already done. Every time you voice a complaint, you're not just remembering the event, you're emotionally re-experiencing it, reinforcing the frustration, anger, or disappointment it caused. Think about it. If something went wrong at work, and you spend the rest of the day talking about how unfair it was, you're essentially making yourself live that moment dozens of times. The brain doesn't fully distinguish between the actual event and the vivid retelling. It triggers the same stress responses, the same rise in blood pressure, the same tightening in your chest. Action, on the other hand, is rooted in the present. It asks, what can I do right now? That question pulls you out of the replay and into the only place where change is possible, this moment. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself in meditations, confine yourself to the present. That wasn't just poetic advice, it was a survival strategy. He ruled an empire while dealing with wars, plagues, and personal tragedies. If anyone had a right to complain, it was him. But he knew that looking backward was a luxury he couldn't afford. The empire needed his decisions today, not his grievances from yesterday. Here's why this matters for you. When you stay locked in complaint mode, you feed your identity as a victim of past events. When you shift to action, you re-identify as an active participant in shaping your life. This mental shift transforms not only how you handle challenges but also how others see you. People naturally gravitate toward those who focus on solutions, not problems. You might say, but what if the situation was truly unfair? The Stoics wouldn't deny it. Injustice exists. But they would ask, does replaying it in your mind change the past, or does it only steal from your present? And if it only steals, why keep giving it the power to do so? Let's try a simple Stoic exercise. The next time you find yourself recounting a frustrating event, stop mid-sentence and ask, what can I do now that will actually improve my position? This could mean addressing the issue directly with someone, taking steps to prevent it from happening again, or even deciding to drop it completely and free up your mental bandwidth. Here's another way to think of it. Your attention is a currency, and you can only spend it in one place at a time. Complaining spends it on the past. Acting invests it in the present. And just like money, where you put your attention determines what grows. Neurologically, this shift is powerful. Focusing on present action activates brain regions associated with problem solving and creativity, while focusing on past grievances keeps the amygdala, your brain's threat center, on high alert. That's why you feel stuck after a long complaining session but energized after even small productive steps. So, the fourth reason is clear. Complaining locks you in a loop with your past, but taking action pulls you into the only arena where you can make real changes, the now. And if you chain enough nows together, you change your future as well. Ask yourself, right now, at this exact moment, what can I do, no matter how small, to improve my situation instead of reliving it? That one question could be the bridge from frustration to freedom. The fifth reason, Complaining weakens your resilience, action builds it. Resilience isn't built in calm seas. It's forged in the storms, in the moments when life feels unfair, unpredictable, and uncomfortable. But here's the twist the Stoics understood: every time you choose to complain instead of act, you rob yourself of the training that would have made you stronger. Marcus Aurelius faced invasions, political betrayal, and personal loss. He didn't spend his energy asking, "Why me?" Instead, he asked, "Given this reality, what's my next step?" This shift in mindset is the difference between becoming tougher through adversity or more fragile because of it. Complaining is the mental equivalent of leaning on a crutch you don't actually need. At first, it feels supportive. It's comforting to share your frustrations, to vent, to seek sympathy. But over time, that crutch atrophies the muscles you need to stand strong on your own. When a bigger challenge comes, you find yourself less capable of facing it because you've been practicing helplessness instead of strength. The Stoics would argue that resilience is not optional, it's a requirement for a good life. Epictetus put it plainly: difficulties show a person to themselves. When you choose action over complaint, you get to see who you really are, and you might be surprised at your own capability. Think about this in practical terms. When your project at work falls apart, complaining might make you feel temporarily justified, but acting, reorganizing, finding solutions, taking ownership, makes you better at handling crises. When your plans are disrupted, complaining locks you in the frustration of what should have been, but action moves you toward making the best of what is. There's another, less obvious benefit here. Each time you respond with action instead of complaint, you create a mental success story your brain remembers. These stories build your self-confidence over time. So, the next time life knocks you down, you won't just hope you can get back up, you'll know you can, because you've done it before. The science supports this too. Psychologists have found that resilience grows when we practice adaptive coping, meaning we face challenges head-on, seek solutions, and adapt. Complaining, by contrast, is a form of maladaptive coping. It burns emotional energy without moving you forward. The Stoics lived this truth. They didn't wait for an ideal life to start living well. They trained their minds to remain steady in discomfort so that when trouble arrived, and it always does, they were ready. Imagine for a moment your own life 5 years from now. Which version of you do you want to see? The one who spent those years sharpening resilience through decisive action? Or the one who eroded it, one complaint at a time? Here's a challenge. This week, when you hit a roadblock, commit to one concrete action before you speak a single complaint. Send that email. Start that repair. Have that hard conversation. Then, after the action, see if you still feel the need to complain. Chances are, you won't. Resilience is a muscle, and like any muscle, it only grows when you use it. The fifth reason is simple: every complaint makes you weaker, every act makes you stronger. Which one do you want to practice? The sixth reason: complaining traps you in the past, action invests in the future. When you complain, you're rehearsing something that's already happened. You're replaying the scene, going over the injustice, narrating the story, often to anyone who will listen. But here's the truth: the past is fixed. No amount of retelling will change it. And every moment you spend locked in that loop is a moment you're not investing in the only thing you can actually influence: the future. The Stoics were relentless about this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others. It will keep you from doing what is truly yours to do." Complaining is the ultimate example of wasting what is yours to do. It's a diversion, a sinkhole for your attention and energy. Think of your mind as a piece of fertile land. You can plant seeds that will grow into something useful, or you can let weeds take over. Complaints are weeds. They spread quickly, choke out productive thought, and demand constant tending. Action, on the other hand, is planting for the harvest you want. The danger is that complaining often feels like progress because it's an outlet. You speak your frustration, you get agreement from others, maybe even sympathy. But in reality, it's motion without movement. You end the conversation no closer to a solution than when you started. The Stoics would advise a mental pivot. Whenever you catch yourself complaining, pause and ask, what's the next small thing I can do to make this better? Not a perfect fix, not a grand overhaul, just a small, forward-moving step. That's the seed. This shift has two powerful effects. First, it reclaims your agency. You stop seeing yourself as a passive victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as an active participant in shaping your reality. Second, it starts a chain reaction. Small actions create momentum, and momentum is the antidote to stagnation. Consider this example. You get stuck in traffic and realize you'll be late for an important meeting. Complaining keeps you mentally in the past, the light that changed too fast, the driver who cut you off, the time you should have left earlier. Action focuses on the future, calling ahead to let them know, using the extra minutes to review your notes, adjusting the meeting plan to make up for lost time. One mindset leaves you frustrated and powerless, the other leaves you prepared. Here's the uncomfortable question. If someone filmed your life for the past week, how much of it would show you investing in the future, and how much would show you stuck in loops about the past? The Stoics knew that life is short. Every hour spent in complaint is an hour stolen from the life you could be building. The sixth reason is this: the more you act, the more of your life is spent in creation rather than in repetition. And when the days behind you are fewer than the days ahead, that choice becomes urgent. So here's a simple practice. When frustration hits, imagine you're holding two coins. One says past, the other says future. Every thought, every word, every action is a coin you spend. Ask yourself, which coin am I spending right now? And is it buying me the life I want? The Stoics would remind us, the past is done. The future is waiting. The question is, are you going to complain about what's gone, or act to shape what's coming? The seventh reason: complaining weakens discipline, action strengthens it. Every time you complain, you reinforce a mental habit, the habit of outsourcing responsibility. You tell yourself, this situation is unfair, and it's someone else's job to fix it. Slowly, without even noticing, you erode one of the most valuable assets you have: self-discipline. Discipline isn't built in dramatic moments, it's built in the small, ordinary ones. The decision to get up when you're tired, to keep going when progress is slow, to hold your tongue when you want to lash out, that's discipline. And discipline is like a muscle. It grows when you use it, and it withers when you neglect it. Complaining is neglect. The Stoics understood that discipline is freedom. Epictetus, once a slave, taught his students that the highest form of freedom came not from doing whatever you wanted, but from mastering your desires, impulses, and reactions. Complaining is the opposite of mastery. It's letting external events dictate your inner state. When you choose action over complaint, you're making a disciplined choice. You're telling yourself, I may not like this, but I will face it. I will move forward anyway. And that small decision, repeated over time, becomes the foundation for resilience. Think of it like training. Every time you turn frustration into action, you're doing a mental push-up. At first, it's uncomfortable, maybe even painful. But over time, you become stronger, more capable, less easily rattled. Complaining, by contrast, is like skipping the workout because it's hard. It feels easier in the moment, but it leaves you weaker in the long run. Ask yourself this: when future challenges come, and they will, do you want to meet them as someone who has trained for the moment, or as someone who has let themselves go soft through constant complaining? Discipline is also contagious. When you model it, you inspire it in others. A leader who acts instead of complains earns respect. A friend who takes initiative instead of grumbling sets a standard. Even in small, unseen moments, you're building a reputation with yourself, proving that you can be trusted to do the hard thing. The seventh Stoic reason is simple: action builds the inner strength you'll need for the battles ahead, while complaining leaves you unprepared. Marcus Aurelius warned against wasting what remains of your life in pettiness. Complaining is petty. Action is purposeful. Here's a challenge. For the next 7 days, Treat every moment of frustration as a test of discipline. Don't see it as an inconvenience, see it as a weight to lift. Can you carry it? Can you move with it? Can you use it to become stronger? And remember, you are training for your future self. That self will either thank you for building discipline or resent you for letting it weaken. Which will it be? The 8th reason, complaining blinds you to opportunity, action reveals it. Have you ever noticed how, when you're in a negative mood, opportunities seem invisible? It's not because they've disappeared, it's because your focus has shifted. Complaining narrows your vision. It traps you in a loop where you see only what's wrong, never what's possible. The Stoics taught that perception shapes reality. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's not just poetic, it's deeply practical. What you label as a burden could just as easily be a doorway. But when you complain, you never even try the handle. Opportunities rarely announce themselves with flashing signs. They often come disguised as problems, challenges, or even failures. A project at work that feels overwhelming could be your chance to learn skills that elevate your career. A personal setback could force you to develop patience, adaptability, or courage. But you'll only notice these hidden benefits if you shift from "why me" to "what now?" Complaining locks you into the first question, "Why me?" which focuses on blame and unfairness. Action moves you to the second, "What now?" which focuses on agency and solutions. That shift is everything. It's the difference between passively enduring life and actively shaping it. Epictetus reminded his students that we cannot control what happens, but we can control how we respond. Imagine two people facing the same setback. One complains for weeks, waiting for circumstances to change. The other acts immediately, seeking even the smallest next step forward. A month later, who is in a better position? Who has discovered new doors to open? This isn't just philosophy, it's neuroscience. The brain has a filtering system called the reticular activating system, RAS. It decides what information to notice and what to ignore, based on what you focus on most. Focus on problems, and your brain will filter for more problems. Focus on solutions, and your brain will filter for opportunities. Complaining literally trains your mind to ignore the possibilities right in front of you. The Stoic approach flips the script. Every difficulty is an opportunity in disguise. This isn't naive optimism, it's disciplined perception. It's saying, "I may not like this, but I refuse to leave empty-handed." Ask yourself, how many opportunities have you missed simply because you were too busy complaining to notice them? How much further along could you be right now if you had acted sooner, even imperfectly? The 8th Stoic reason is clear. Action reveals the path forward, while complaining keeps you staring at a closed door. The next time you feel yourself slipping into the "why me?" spiral, stop. Breathe. Then ask, "What now?" and move. Because every step you take uncovers something the complainer will never see. The 9th reason, complaining steals your resilience, action builds it. Resilience is not built in comfort, it's forged in difficulty. And yet, the moment hardship arrives, many people choose to drain their strength by complaining instead of building it through action. Think about it, every time you complain without acting, you're rehearsing helplessness. You're teaching your mind that your only role is to suffer and narrate the injustice. But when you act, even in a small way, you send the opposite message: I am capable. I am adaptable. I can move forward. Seneca wrote, "Difficulty strengthens the mind, as labor does the body." But that strengthening only happens if we use the difficulty as training, not as a stage for endless grievances. Complaining turns hardship into a stagnant swamp. Action turns hardship into a gym where your mental and emotional muscles grow. Resilience doesn't come from avoiding challenges, it comes from engaging with them. Imagine a stoic blacksmith hammering steel into shape. The fire is the challenge, the hammer is your action, and the steel is your character. Without the hammering, the fire only burns, it never transforms. Here's the trap: complaining feels like doing something. It gives a short-lived sense of release, like letting steam out of a boiling pot. But once the steam is gone, the water is still boiling, and nothing has changed. Resilience requires more than release. It requires resistance and persistence. Think about a time you overcame something you once thought was impossible. Maybe it was recovering from a financial setback, rebuilding after a breakup, or facing a difficult work project. In those moments, you probably didn't feel strong. But you acted anyway. And in acting, you became strong. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, if it is endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. This wasn't about suppressing emotions, it was about channeling them into motion. When you act, you not only endure, you adapt. You transform difficulty from something that happens to you into something that happens for you. Ask yourself, if I meet every challenge with complaint, how will I ever build the endurance needed for the bigger battles ahead? And here's the harder question: do I want to be remembered as someone who broke under pressure, or someone who rose because of it? Resilience is like compound interest. Every time you act in the face of difficulty, you make a small deposit into your inner strength account. Over time, those deposits grow into unshakable confidence. Complaining makes withdrawals instead, slowly depleting your reserves until even small challenges feel overwhelming. The ninth Stoic reason is this: when you act, you train for life's next test. When you complain, you skip the training and pray the test never comes. But it will come. And the version of you that trains daily through decisive action will always be ready. So the next time life pushes you, remember, this is not the end of you. It's the shaping of you. The 10th reason: complaining wastes the only resource you can never get back: time. Time is the most precious thing you have. You can lose money and earn it again. You can lose possessions and replace them. But every second you spend complaining is a second you will never see again. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire and still found time for reflection, said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Imagine if you lived with that awareness every single day. Would you still spend hours, days, or even years telling the same story of how unfair life has been to you? When you complain, you're not only giving your energy to the problem, you're giving it time. You're putting your life on hold while you narrate why things are bad. And while you're talking, time keeps moving forward. The opportunity to change your situation keeps slipping away. The Stoics believed in memento mori, remembering death. Not as a morbid thought, but as a call to urgency. You don't have forever. None of us do. Every day is a page in your life's book. Do you really want those pages filled with the same paragraphs of grievances? Or do you want them filled with moments where you decided to rise, act, and create something worth remembering? Seneca warned, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Complaining is the purest form of waste, because it takes the time you could use to act and spends it on repeating what's wrong. Action, on the other hand, turns that same time into progress, solutions, and growth. Here's the truth: your problems will not pause because you're talking about them. The clock won't stop ticking because you're upset. In fact, the longer you delay, the harder it becomes to change your circumstances. Every minute spent complaining is like standing still while life pulls you backward. So, ask yourself right now, if today were my last day, would I want to spend it explaining why things went wrong, or would I want to spend it making something right? That's not a rhetorical question. Your answer to it determines the course of your life from this moment forward. The 10th Stoic reason is this: action honors the gift of time. Complaining insults it. One builds a life, the other drains it away. You get to decide which one you'll choose. And here's the hard but liberating truth: no one is coming to rescue you from your own inaction. That's your job. The day you stop waiting for someone else to fix your life and start using your own hands, mind, and will is the day you truly begin living. The Stoics didn't waste time on "why me?" They asked, "what now?" And then, they acted. That's your path too, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Right now. So, close this chapter in your mind. Let the story of endless complaints end here. And open a new one, a story about courage, decisions, and forward motion. Because the clock is ticking. And the only time you truly have is the moment you choose to act. Final reflections, choosing action over complaint. As we come to the end of this journey, take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored together. 10 reasons, 10 powerful Stoic principles that remind us why complaining drains our strength and why action builds it. But remember, these are not just ideas to listen to once and then forget. They are tools. And like any tools, their power comes only when you use them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Every time you face frustration, you stand at a crossroads. Will you waste energy wishing the world were different, or will you use that energy to act, to improve, to grow? Complaining may feel satisfying for a moment, but it leaves you weaker. Action, no matter how small, leaves you stronger. Think back to your own life. How many hours have been lost in frustration, repeating the same complaints, waiting for the perfect moment to act? The Stoics teach us that the perfect moment is an illusion. The only real moment we ever have is now. Complaining focuses on what we can't control. Action focuses on what we can. The truth is, no one owes us a life without obstacles. The world is not here to make everything easy for us. In fact, the greatest people in history were often forged in difficulty. They became unshakable not because life spared them hardship, but because they faced it head-on. Every complaint you resist is a chance to train your mind, to discipline your emotions, to strengthen your will. And here's something you should remember: you inspire people more with your actions than with your words. You may not even realize it, but every time you choose action over complaint, someone is watching, a friend, a colleague, maybe even a stranger, and they see an example worth following. By living this way, you don't just improve your own life, you quietly give others permission to rise above their own excuses. So, what will you do now? Will you let these ideas fade, or will you apply them starting today? What's one complaint you can let go of? What's one action you can take, even if it's small, that moves you forward? Write it down. Commit to it. Then do it. And tomorrow, do it again. This is how change happens, not in sudden bursts, but in steady, consistent steps. If you've made it this far, it means you care about living with strength, clarity, and purpose. The Stoics would say that's already a sign of progress. Awareness is the first step. Now comes the second, action. Before we close, I have one request for you. If this message has given you even one useful insight, take a moment to subscribe to this channel. Not just as a favor to me, but as a commitment to yourself, to keep learning, to keep growing, to keep surrounding your mind with ideas that sharpen and strengthen it. And share your thoughts in the comments. Which Stoic reason spoke to you the most? How will you apply it in your own life starting today? Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear to start their own journey. And remember, every day is another chance to rise above complaints and step into action. The choice will always be yours. Choose well.